I do apologize, sir, for being so late. So, sir, what seems to be the issue? As a medical professional, I can't help you if I can't see your face. Ah! Where did that come from? What happened to your face? It's monstrous. Have you been associating with cultist circles? Hanging around with the shoggoths you shouldn't have been? Or summoning the old ones? Or reading too much Lovecraftian literature? It appears you have been infected by an old one, torn a hole in the cosmic prison, releasing the old ones, exposing the entire earth to a reign of endless chaos. However, there may be a cure. You will need to take this map, travel by train across the Lovecraftian countryside to a town called Arkham, where you'll have to find clues, defeat cultists, and ultimately seal the portals forever, locking the old ones away. I almost forgot. Don't forget to take this board game, Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu. It's your only hope. Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu is a reimagined version of Matt Leacock's original game, Pandemic, where players build research stations, find cures, treat disease before a global pandemic can occur. In Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu, players defeat cultists, defeat shoggoths, and try and close the gates before the great old ones awaken. Pandemic is a game designed by Matt Leacock. It's for 2 to 4 players, published by Z-Man Games, and plays about 45 minutes. In this video, I'll be making a comparison between Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu and the original game Pandemic. Now, in the original game of Pandemic, your players come in the form of these coloured pawns. You have these cure disease markers, and your disease are in all of these different cool plastic transparent coloured cubes. On are the lifeless monocoloured pawns, and now you've got characters with personality. Now you get a cool looking sanity die, some individually sculpted investigator figures, and some very ugly looking shoggoths. That shoggoth! It's hideous! The ominously transparent disease cubes are replaced with ominously non-transparent cultists. More cultists than your grandma's tea party. Those plastic disease cure markers and research stations have been replaced by... what? Cardboard? What madness is this? Even Cthulhu himself would be impressed. In the original Pandemic, you had cool roll cards, where if you were the scientist, you only needed 4 cards to discover a cure. Being a medic allows you to treat all the cubes of one colour when treating a disease and removing cubes from cured diseases from the city you are in. And researcher, dispatcher, quarantine specialist, contingency planner, and operations expert. Reign of Cthulhu can now take on the role of investigators with special abilities like removing all cultists when doing a defeat a cultist action. Once per turn, defeat a shoggoth for only 1 action. Be a doctor, take up 5 actions per turn. Be a detective, you only need 4 cards of the same colour to seal the gate. However, your characters can now go insane. The insane reporter may no longer take the bus. I choose to walk forever in the same direction without turning around and keep going until I reach the hospital. If you do a side-by-side comparison of the roles from the original and the new game, you can see that there are only 2 cards that are quite similar. These cards here are less similar, but are paired up based on their function. And these cards simply don't match up at all. In the original Pandemic, the roles were particularly thematic. You've got cards that help you treat disease and remove cubes. You've got cards that help you get more cards and trade. And you've got cards that help you to travel, or simply cards like this that help you to be an alpha player. That's moving other people's pawns for them. In Reign of Cthulhu, you've got characters' abilities that allow them to move in different ways. Characters that allow you to defeat and kill monsters or move monsters. Or characters that simply allow you to gain more actions, or seal gates for a cheaper cost, or manipulate relic cards. Now the number here signifies how many actions that player can do, but when players go insane, the number of actions that they can perform are reduced, and the abilities are now modified. I really love how these Investigator cards are double-sided, but it's something that we have seen before in games like Eldritch Horror and Mansions of Madness. Have you gone completely insane? You can see that the original map of Pandemic is much wider. There are more spaces, with each of the 4 different colored regions having 11 to 12 individual spaces, and the spatial distance is important. First of all, because you're replicating, a map of the world, but also when outbreaks occur, they then chain outbreak along the lines. How do they always cut off New Zealand from game board maps? You can see in Reign of Cthulhu, the map is much tighter and smaller, and there are significantly less spaces and places for people to move to. There's only about 5 to 6 spaces in each of the 4 different colored regions, and moving from one side of the board to the other side of the board can be quite tricky if you're not traveling by the gate or by using a bus. There's a lot more flexibility to fly from one city to another due to using the flight action or using research stations. Here you have an outbreak track, and you've also got the infection rate marked by this track here at the top. Here everything is consolidated into the old ones track, which I like to call the doom track, and the summoning rate is written right beneath each of the cards. The old ones track is set up by shuffling these old ones cards randomly face down, except for Cthulhu, which obviously is placed at the very end, and then they're placed on this track in the spaces shown. Throughout the game, as they get unveiled, special abilities and special changes to the game occur. Evil stirs are revealed, and as places get overcrowded by cultists, old ones then get flipped over, and the summoning rate then increases. The old ones have different abilities or different rule sets that change or affect the gameplay. So Shadmiel, players lose sanity tokens according to the number of players that are in the game. Flipping over Yig, sealing gates now requires 1 additional clue card from a connected town, and this symbol here means it lasts for the rest of the game. Unveiling these old ones is really bad for the players because they add new rules or they add changes to the game that can affect the tempo of the game. I think medical knowledge in the field of the old ones might be beyond my expertise. Infection deck and the infection rate tells players where to place colored cubes and kind of simulates the spread of disease. The summoning deck functions in the same way as the infection deck from Pandemic, but now they tell us where to put cultists. So you would flip this over and would say docks, you then grab a cultist and place it on the dock. Revealing summoning cards from the summoning deck also has an added effect. Whenever you get this symbol here, it means that any shoggoth on the board moves 1 step closer to the nearest open gate. In the original Pandemic, if you ever had to add a 4th cube to a particular location, that would cause an outbreak to occur, and an extra cube from each of those outbreaks would be added to surrounding cities. Then you would get things like chain outbreaks, where then another cube would then get added to the adjacent cities. And then eventually, you would hope that you wouldn't land on this final skull space, because that would be the end of the game for you. If you ever have to add a 4th cultist to a particular location, you don't add that cultist. Instead, you reveal an old one. So in this game, the outbreak track has been streamlined to create the doom track. Places that are overrun by cultists will accelerate the way these cards are revealed here on the doom track. You've only got really about 7 chances before Cthulhu awakens. I see shoggoths. If in the original game, if you drew an epidemic card, you would increase the infection rate by 1, you would draw the bottom card and place 3 cubes on that city, and then you would intensify by putting the discard pile on top of the player deck. In this game, the epidemic cards come in the form of Evil Stir cards. Drawing an Evil Stirs card is pretty bad, especially if you ever draw 2 of these in a row. Because the first thing you need to do is roll the sanity die, because obviously this game is about going crazy. You would reveal an old one and resolve its effect. In this case, I'd have to remove 3 unused cultists from the supply box for the rest of the game. You then get a shoggoth, and then you draw the bottom card from the summoning deck, and you place the shoggoth in that location. You would take all of the cultist discard pile cards, and then you would shuffle up and place it back on top of the summoning deck. So then in the summoning step of the game, players would then respawn new cultists. It's kind of like the cultists preaching to other cultists and preaching to other cultists, and those cultists preaching to 10 other cultists, and you get the idea. What are you doing? Can't you see? I'm stirring up evil. There are 2 significant differences that makes the Reign of Cthulhu Evil Stirs card so much more frightening and horrific than the epidemic card. First of all, you've got to roll the sanity die, and the sanity die means that you start losing your marbles and you start going a little bit bonkers. The other thing is you actually have to reveal an old one, which can have some game-altering consequences that you rather wish you'd not have. And when you're setting up the game, you raise the difficulty of the original Pandemic by placing more epidemic cards in the player deck. Whereas in Reign of Cthulhu, the deck is actually thinned out at the beginning of the game when players remove certain coloured clue cards to try and raise the difficulty of the game, and thereby making easier for Cthulhu to awaken. If stirring evil is your deal, then maybe you should find a new pastime. These event cards are now replaced by Relic cards. They look pretty good and they give you bonus abilities, but there's one downside to them. The sanity die. The silver key allows you to move to any location on the board. The active player can take 3 extra actions this turn. Skip the next summoning step. Read the cards. See what they say. You may be surprised. Who would have known that a beautiful looking die could have been so scary? Here you would lose 1 sanity token. You would lose 2 sanity tokens. Here you would gain 2 cultists in the location that you're in. It doesn't take a die to work out how insane you already are. What are some of the big differences? Well, you've got the introduction of the sanity die in Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, which brings in this level of personal risk. Players can go insane if they lose too many sanity tokens. And that's really different from the original game because players here are not managing only the problems that are occurring in the game itself, but their own personal psychological strength. Cards in this game are now more streamlined, whereas in the original game, they came in the form of city cards and they were very city specific, whereas in this game, each region is just represented by a single color. In the original game, once you cured a disease, no more disease cubes of that color will be added to the... When you close a gate, cultists can still be added to any colored region when you are doing the summoning step, which can really be quite scary because as you're closing the gate, the cultists are still appearing, shoggoths are still appearing if you draw those stir cards, and you know, the game amps up to another level. It's more of an accumulative effect. 3 cultists are already on a spawn, you add a new one, that reveals another old one. If you get an evil stirs, that reveals another old one. And the old ones, as you play through the game, get revealed quicker and quicker, and the tempo of the game is really quite interesting. And when you kill a shoggoth, you get rewarded with a relic card, but then if you choose to use a relic card, you're risking your own sanity. Trading is so much easier, you simply just have to be on the same space as another player. But also, there are so many more ways to lose. So I took my ticket that I was given by this mysterious cultist figure. I took the train from Arkham all the way to San Francisco, when from behind me, a star spawn that nobody else could see hit me, and I lost 1 health. Anybody here have a health token? Anybody? Wait, what? This isn't the review video for Eldritch Horror, the board game? Oh, sorry guys, wrong video. I'm off. To my final verdict, I really love the Lovecraftian theme that this game evokes and the nice tweaks to the mechanisms that they've made to the original Pandemic to make it seem fresh for seasoned players and new players alike. It is a really great light gateway game for games like Eldritch Horror. At the end of the day, I think I would have to choose the original Pandemic as a better game due to the greater strength in the synergy between the actual mechanics and the theme of managing diseases, preventing those crazy outbreaks, and just immersing players in that real world situation. Thank you for joining me for another board game review at Board Game Sanctuary. If you really like my videos, please subscribe. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram. I will see you again soon. This is Danny signing out. Bye. Welcome once again to Fairy Tale Time. Once upon a time, beings of ancient and bizarre intelligence known as the Old Ones unleashed an age of madness, chaos, and destruction upon the fabric of reality. What sort of fairy tale is this?